We live in a world obsessed with ROI and KPI and metrics. How does Ugly Mug Marketing define success beyond these numbers, beyond these metrics? What does that look like for you?
When we work with someone who's maybe worked with another agency before, we find that they were like, it's often because they were disappointed. They're like, yeah, we left that agency because we weren't getting what we wanted. And I'm
Mm,
like, well, can you like show me a report that like, would you get like a weekly report? Would you get a monthly report? Like, what was included in that? And then so they'll share the report with me, and it is filled with all of these KPIs, these numbers, these metrics, these reach, impression,
yeah,
engagement, how many
yeah.
people commented on something, how many people liked it. And what I found is that these business owners, like, they can't sleep at night because they want their business to be making money. They're stressed because they have payroll to meet with a team. They are so responsible for the livelihood of their family and of all of these people that are on their team, whether it's 5 people or 500 people on their team. And they're responsible for the livelihood of all those people.
Welcome, Third Rock listeners, to the Branding Laboratory. I'm your host, Deevo, Chief Experience Officer for the Brand Storyteller and the Fusion Creative Brands. And each week, I have the privilege of speaking with extraordinary leaders and entrepreneurs who are reshaping the way industries work. These conversations go way beyond the surface to explore the core philosophies, the lessons, and the challenges that define the brands that we admire today. And one of the greatest rewards of this podcast is the opportunity to share the insights of some of the brightest minds in business, people who are passionate about pushing boundaries and redefining what's possible. And as I always say, the stories we tell are the brands we build. And this show is a testament to the power of that concept. Let's dive in. All right, welcome back to the Branding Laboratory. I'm your host, Deevo, and today I'm going to dive into the fascinating world of results-driven marketing with a bold twist. My guest is the Director of Communications and Teaching at
Mhm.
Ugly Mug Marketing. I want to know what teaching you're doing. Are you teaching clients? Are you teaching your team, or all of the above?
Yeah, teaching our team and also teaching clients, really leaning into consulting
Mm,
and teaching in-person classes as well.
I love that. I do the same thing. So let's talk about that. So
Yeah.
you are a branding marketing agency that challenges the traditional focus on aesthetics, which is sort of ironic since you're a marketing company.
Yeah.
And the whole space around what you do is results over everything else. So I saw on your website or something that you'd rather have a poorly designed website that was highly functional and purposeful rather than a beautiful, fantastic website that was doing absolutely nothing. So the question I want to know, that's the first question, can you have both?
I
Okay.
certainly believe that you can have both, but more often than not, what we find is people get really hung up on the aesthetics of it. And they get really disappointed because they launch these phenomenally beautiful websites that have amazing graphics and photos. And they believe that that is what is going to attract their customers and ultimately what's going to drive revenue. But they often find themselves disappointed because the website is missing some key functionalities, some of those key call to actions. It doesn't have the right messaging on it. Maybe people come to the website and they're like, wow, this is so beautiful, but I don't know what this company is or who they are, what they're about, what they actually do. And so we really strive to find a balance of both, but we really want to focus on, is this website ultimately going to help you get the results that you're looking for?
Mm.
Because a lot of times people think about marketing and they do think about the beautiful picture. They think about the fun graphic. They think about this one memorable campaign that they saw from, another business or organization. But I really try and dial it back to, first of all, what is our goal with this? Because a lot of times too, people come to us and they're like, oh, we want to be on Facebook or we want to
Mm.
be on TikTok or we want to be on this. And I'm like, but why?
Mm.
What is your goal for your business? Because everything that we do when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales in your business, it has everything to do with tying back to what that number is. So, what are your revenue goals for this quarter? What are they are? What are your goals for this year? If we don't have that outlined, we're probably not going to be a good fit because I need to be able to draw a line from your website traffic to sales in your business, from your website, or excuse me, from your social media presence, being able to draw a line back to dollars in your business is really, really important for me to be
All right,
able to
let
that
me stop you
provide it.
there. So is revenue the sole focus each and every time for a website? What makes an effective website an effective website?
So I don't believe that revenue is the ultimate thing every time. I think oftentimes it can also be providing a level of education, depending on the industry. It can also be tied to, or our goal can also be positioning ourselves as an expert too, and ensuring that our content on our website helps build the perceived value that we want the people who are coming to our website to have. But especially when we're working in e-commerce space, we really want to make sure that people are coming to our website, that they're staying on our website, that they're adding to cart, that they're not abandoning their cart, and that they are actually completing that checkout, right? Now, my bread and butter isn't necessarily websites per se, but when I am working with someone on just an overall marketing strategy, one of the things we are going to look at is your website and your analytics. And
What
we're going to try and dive into what do we actually want people to do when they come here.
what if your website doesn't have an e-com feature and it's just sort of an informational
Yeah.
bulletin board, but you still want to have an impact with it in terms of at least getting people to these conversions you talked. You want people to at least submit something to you. So
Yeah.
if you don't have an e-com piece, what's an effective website in that regard look like?
Yeah, I think having some sort of opt-in of sorts that actually is appealing to our target audience. So whether that is, hey, sign up for our email newsletter, or if it is, hey, we've got this free download with this additional resource for you, whatever that may be. Outside of having someone physically be giving you money and checking out in that moment, those can be some other options for creating a conversion on your website.
Let's break that down a little bit because there's a lot of people when you go to websites and mine included, I've got things on here that they're trying to entice you to join or subscribe. I'm trying to build an email list. But is there a secret sauce in terms of this? Like, is there sort of some standard deviations that we should all be following as it pertains to at least collecting information or having the ability to sort of get someone to convert to take that next step other than just a visitor? Are there some, I think there's sort of like blueprint standard deviations around that?
Yeah, I think we have to consider what is it that we are going to be offering first. Is this an actual need? Is this solving a problem for the person that we are trying to serve? And then before we even make that onto the website, we have to figure out how are we going to get people to the website? What is it that we are going to run as an advertisement on Facebook, for example, or on Instagram? Or are we running a PPC campaign? Is this a part of, some other influencer strategy to try and drive traffic to our website, right? What is it that our messaging is going to say to entice them to get them to the website? That's step one that we need to think about. And then we need to think about, all right, where on the website are we actually wanting them to take action? Do I need a pop-up to just come up right away when they get there so that it's easy for them to opt in? That is the name of the game. I feel like the more difficult we make it, the more fields that we add initially, the less likely we're really going to get. I have a caveat to this, but the less likely I feel we're going to be able to capture that information in a quick manner. Now, an opt in for an email list is a much lower level risk than if we're having a more intense questionnaire where we're trying to really learn about someone's business. For example, we have a form that lives buried in our Ugly Mug website. But when we're first working with someone or someone's inquiring to work with us, we do actually have a more in-depth questionnaire. But I'm not going to run that as an ad and try and get people to fill out that questionnaire, right? I want to think about what's something that's lower level entry, low risk for them to be able to want to opt in. So I need to be thinking about where are my people hanging out so I can show up and try and create something that's going to drive them to the website. I need to be thinking about where on the website this opt-in is going to be. And then the third thing is like, what is the actual offer itself? And making sure, again, not to beat a dead horse here, even though I do hate that saying, we need to make sure that it is something that has a low barrier, something that people are genuinely going to see value in, but that doesn't cost a lot initially, or maybe has no cost, but does still have that perceived value from the customer.
Well, what's that fine line, that balance between, you talked about pop-ups, you talked about forums, you talk about lead gen stuff. What's that fine line between collecting information and just becoming annoying on the website so that I can't actually have an immersive experience in there?
Yeah, gosh, that's That's the trick, right? I will say, speaking from like the social media perspective, we really want to be paying attention to what our cost per lead is, depending on whatever our opt-in is, or cost per conversion. We also want to be really looking at frequency. I tend to look at that a lot whenever I have, whether it's a lead generation form on Facebook or we're sending traffic to the website for conversion. I tend to look a lot at the frequency, because there does kind of become this inflection point, if you will, of like, hey, and yeah, I am annoying someone. They are seeing this ad quite often and they're not taking action or going to the website, or maybe someone has seen this like 6 or 7 times. And that frequency on average can sometimes become a little annoying.
I don't mean directly advertising lead gen. I'm talking about when someone goes to a website. I've been to websites and I see them all the time,
Oh,
where they're like constantly bombarding me with requesting information from me. And I really
yeah,
it really detracts from me. And again, I suspect this is subjective, but it detracts from my experience to be able to navigate through the site on my own
mm,
fruition and sort of uncover the things that I'm trying to uncover. I always imagine
yeah,
a well-designed website should sort of be a bit of a journey for each visitor so that
yeah,
each page or each step along the way, it's sort of a succession, like you're guiding the people through something. But what my
yeah.
question was is what's that fine line between allowing the customer who's viewing the website for the first time to have a really cool interactive experience or immersive experience, depending upon how you want to look at it, and bombarding them with like requesting information from them? Like, what's that balance? Is there some like standard rules around that?
I wouldn't be the best expert to speak on standard rules
Well, this
around that.
podcast is over then.
Yeah, right. But I would say just from my own experience in guiding and kind of walking alongside our website team as they're working with some of my clients, I would say we don't want to be bombarding people with a bunch of pop-ups, but we do want to make it clear. We want to have a clear call to action on nearly every page. And it doesn't have to be buy my stuff, buy my stuff. It can just be a contact form. It can be a specific call to action to go to navigate to a case study within your website. We just want to, again, like you're saying, have that immersive experience for them to continue to explore and to really lean into the curiosity to increase the amount of time that they're really on our website overall. I do not believe that having a bunch of pop-ups when they go on any given page, or I think it's so annoying sometimes when you go to websites, it's like spin the wheel. And I'm like, I don't want your silly 10% off offer. And now, no, I don't want to give you my email. I just got here. I'm just looking for this particular thing, or I'm looking for
Mm.
this answer, or I'm looking for this resource, right? I don't want to be bombarded. And so, but what I do like as a part of those is a clear call to action or a clear next step, linking out to other places within our website, or linking out maybe to an external website, or to our YouTube channel or our social channels, right? And so I think that component is really important, that, like you mentioned, providing an immersive experience by guiding them to the next thing, but they need to have that call to action. And it does
Mm.
not need to be spin the wheel to get 10% off or sign up for my email list. Those
Mm.
do not need to be the call to actions. Those are absolutely not the only call
Mhm.
to action that you can have on your website in order to provide that experience for someone.
So, if you're just joining me, I'm speaking to Hannah Balliet. She's the director of communications and teaching at Ugly Mug Marketing. I always sort of had this principle around websites that, because you talk about you'd rather have an ugly website that was functional, but I know that's sort of metaphorical for you. You don't really build ugly websites. But that
Yeah.
being said, most of my audience is entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. That being said, are there sort of some guiding principles that everyone should be taking into consideration when they're building their website for the first time? What's the gradient around aesthetics versus functionality versus like these are the must-haves every website must answer, that sort of stuff. Like when you're consulting with people and you go and like I come to you and I say, hey, Hannah, I have this really cool idea, this really cool business I want to blow up, and I need a website. So like, what's the first thing that you say? Okay, if we're going to build a website, we need to make sure that it does this, and this. Are there some principles around that?
Yeah, definitely. I'll give you an example of a company that I'm working with right now. They're in the home services industry, specifically HVAC. They're a third generation business, actually, but this company has kind of been passed along again for 3 generations, and
Oh,
it's
that's
landed
cool.
in their lap. And the previous family member that had it, like they took care of it, they maintained it, but they weren't really focused on growing and scaling it. The couple that now has it, it is a husband and wife duo. It was come through to them from her husband's family. And when they were handed it, they were like, wow, we really need some guidance on how to take this thing to the next level because we know that it has the potential. And so they came to us from a branding standpoint, also just a very holistic marketing look. And so one of the things that we've been looking at is their website. Their website is not ugly. Like it's really not. It's actually a fine looking website. But the reality is their SEO. And when you search for their website, is horrible. And so that is one of the key things that we're focusing on right now is content and specifically SEO. Now, I'm not the SEO expert. I have someone on my team that really leans in and helps us figure out the blogging and the keywords and the meta tags and all of that. But that is really one thing that we are focused on for them as we are heading into Q1 of 2025 is ensuring that the content on the website is updated in such a way that we are able to compete in that keyword space with other HVAC and home services companies in their area. That is their first problem is content.
I just want to reiterate for those of you who are listening, I think a lot of times people hear the word content, they're like, I need to have amazing photography, amazing video, whatever. And content is more than that, right? Like, so from your perspective, content is what does your copy look like? How well is it organized on the website? Are there clear calls to actions? Are there SEO snippets of words that can help you get found organically? Are there good photos? Are there good? Does the forms look good? Or if you're asking for information from people, are those well thought out and easy to navigate? Is it mobile responsive? All these things, those all make up the umbrella of content. And I have to clarify that because I was in a conversation with somebody a couple of days ago. We were in a sort of like a networking event, and all they were focusing on is this idea of you got to have beautiful photos all the time and all these videos. And I was like, I mean, that's important. I understand you should have an aesthetically pleasing look. I mean, let's be real. It's important to have a good looking site, but the content is so much more than just photos. You agree with this?
Yes, absolutely. It has everything to do with the messaging that's on your website. And this is a little bit of an aside, but so oftentimes I think that entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, people who are just getting started, they have this really brilliant idea and they know why they think it is so brilliant and wonderful. And they know why they have reasons they believe their business is wonderful, but they have not taken the fullness of a look from the customer's perspective. How is this benefit? How is what they're providing, product or service, going to actually benefit the customer? Because that is the lens in which we need to be viewing our content from. When a customer comes to the website, what is it that they are looking for?
Yeah.
What are those key words that they're searching for when they go to Google? Those are the words that need to be outlined on our website, just from a very blanket, like content standpoint. Like if you are an HVAC company, what are homeowners going to on Google and searching? Those are the kinds of blogs that you need to be writing. That's the type of content, that is the language, the way that they say it, the way that they ask the question is the way that your FAQs need to be worded on your website. I cannot emphasize the copywriting process. I, of course, believe in your brand having its own brand identity and having its own voice, but we need to be mindful of how we are talking to our customers, the language that we're using, because they want to be able to relate to our brand, right? They want to feel seen. They want to feel heard, whether we are a fashion company or we are coming out to fix their AC unit, right? And so we need to make sure that that language matches that when it's on our website. And that is something that's really lacking for my client. It's not that the language is bad. There's just not enough of it. There's like 4 pages that have pictures. And I'm like, we need to get some words on here. Like we need to tell a little bit more of your story. We need to tell a little bit more we need to elaborate on the types of services that you offer.
Yeah.
And we need to separate you from your competitors, 100%. Right?
It's not an aside thought. This is the Branding Laboratory podcast. Your brand messaging is literally everything, at least if you speak to me. And what Hannah is saying here is perception is reality. So if your client comes to your website and they're unclear on what you do, what problem you solve, what makes you uniquely qualified for me to exchange money and services with each other, then there's a good bet that you're not saying the right types of word. You don't have the right types of content. And so in every situation, whether it's on social media, whether it's on website, this is what I do. I teach my clients how to get their brand messaging down so that when someone reads it, let me rephrase, when their ideal customer reads it, they're like, motherfucker, that's exactly what
Yeah.
I need. So
Yes.
it's for me, like it's literally everything. Your brand
Yeah.
messaging should come before anything that you do in your marketing world. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, but that's just sort of my premonition, my premise on it.
I completely agree. And what we've noticed is that over time for us as a company, the clients that we have struggled with the most are the people who haven't had that identified. And they've come to us with not a great message,
Mm-hmm.
not a great clear branded identity. They've come to us with a logo that looks okay, and they think that's it.
Yeah.
Right. And then they want us to go and push this out because they're in their mind, they're paying us, with the way that we used to do business. They're in their mind, they're paying us to run the Facebook ad for this thing with this logo, with this message. And ultimately, what we found that we were doing is we were actually amplifying this terrible problem that they
Yep.
had.
100%.
Right. Because before we were just taking whatever they gave us and running with it. But now we have this new approach where people are coming to us and we're like, okay, but we need to talk about the thing first
Mm,
before we ever go
yeah.
and run a Facebook ad, before we go and build a new website, before I even give you suggestions on what should be on your website. Because the reality is if your brand is not honed in, if we don't have the messaging dialed in, if we don't know who we are as a company and what we stand for and the problems that we're solving, and I love what you mentioned, our ideal customers, if we don't know who those people are, when you try to talk to everybody, you end up talking to nobody. And that's just a fact. And so we need to have that dialed in before we go and send our message to those ideal customers.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. One of the things that I've been really focusing on the last few months with my business and my clients is this sort of this idea, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're a solopreneur and you have a lot of different services or solutions that you can offer to a variety of different people. It's less about niching down for me, and I'd like to get your opinion on this. It's less about niching down as opposed to you actually are the niche of your brand. And when you start to sort of live those principles around you are the niche of your brand, you become the niche of your brand, and you start to philosophically align with what you believe in as a business owner, what you believe in your values, the services you offer, the solutions that you offer, and you start living that space and living in that sandbox, then you're going to start attracting the people who need those solutions because those are
Yeah,
instead of trying to fit yourself into someone else's paradigm or that whole,
totally.
I've always hated that idea of like you have to niche down because for me, like I do a lot of different services for my clients. I do coaching, I do consulting, I do brand writing, we do copywriting. So there's a lot of different types of people that we work with. And if I were to say like, okay, I'm only going to work with engineers who have MBAs, who drive BMWs, who live
Yeah.
in this, it's like I'm trying to completely transmorph what I am into someone else's ideal. Whereas if I can live my dream, live my values, live my philosophies, then by
Yeah,
using that as my
practice.
by using that as my bulletin board, it becomes a magnet for the right type of people we want to work for. Do you agree with this concept or?
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Okay.
do agree with that.
Cool.
Yeah,
So it's
definitely.
funny, and I want to ask you a question because you said something really important before, and you said even in your own business. And by the way, we're talking with Hannah at Ugly Mug Marketing. And if you're enjoying the show, please subscribe and share it so that I can get more people like Hannah on the show. Really appreciate you joining me today, Hannah. You said something though that I found interesting, and it's sort of like a global paradigm that I've seen in everywhere I go with my clients or people from around the world is that people market first before they have clarity and
Mm,
crystallization on exactly what they do, why they do it, what they do, the problems they solve, etc. And they try marketing first, and then they wonder why their paid advertising fizzled out, or why their social media is not connecting, or why their website doesn't get organic visitors, or whatever it is. Whether you're a restaurant or a marketing company or a branding agency, it's really important to sort of not put the cart before the horse, but really
yes.
get your foundation in place and
Yeah.
then start marketing because now you have clarity on your side. And if you have clarity on your side, nothing's going to get lost in translation. Any feedback on that?
I do see a lot of that, and mostly to what I will notice, if we have worked with someone who maybe put the cart before the horse, so to speak, is that they also now where maybe they hired us to help generate leads. So we've developed this offer for them, or we've created this opt-in for them, and now we're running Facebook lead generation campaigns. Amazing, we're generating leads, but since they put the cart before the horse, maybe their product looks really appealing, and it is attracting people to it or their service, but they don't have the sales processes and the systems behind the scenes to handle the amount of leads that are coming in.
So the systemization of it.
Yes, like they have no follow-up process. I'll give you an example. We were working with a company who wanted to hire us to help them find new customers for their video business. And so we started generating leads, started sending those leads to them. But then what we found is they were like, oh, we really suck at following up with these people. Do you guys have a system or process for that? And that was just not something that we had discovered, that system for them was currently broken because they were in this two-person teams, early stages of that. And that's when we also realized that we really needed to be leaning into the consulting side of things and not just provide a transactional, you need leads, you need Facebook ads running. We needed to provide a more holistic view because oftentimes these people were coming to us, and it's not just this company, it's several other companies that we've come across over, our 16 years in business they come to us, but they think they need this thing. They think they need more leads in their business. But the reality is when they get the lead, when somebody fills out the contact form, when somebody finally dials that tracking phone number that we have set up and we can prove that, somebody actually came in from Facebook or from one of these other platforms, they don't have that follow-up process. They don't know how to sell. They don't have an email sequence that's built out. Maybe they do call and they are really good at calling, but if someone doesn't answer, they throw it away. They don't have that system in place to, hey, maybe I need to call this person, 3 times, and maybe I need to send an email. They have no sequence built out. Those processes aren't necessarily always automated, and they can't always be done with an email too. I think oftentimes people think we can hide behind that email. We can just send that text message. We can send that email, and then all of a sudden this transaction is going to come through. No, sometimes we do need to pick up the phone, and we need to be mindful of our audience and what their preference is too, and how they prefer to be communicated to, when they would like the communication to come through. Because those things all matter in order to have that successful conversion. But I do believe that component is missing, those sales systems and processes on the back end in order to complete the conversion. You think you need the lead, you think you need the Facebook ad, but we need the fullness of everything that gets that person across the finish line to being a paying customer.
So it's not just a CRM solution in place; it's a systemization of the CRM, so that you have a way to manage all the different diversity of stuff that comes in. Whether I guess what I'm hearing you say is it's customer journey. So you need to be able to connect the dots on your customer journey, whatever that means, and that means different things for different people. So that's front end, that's back end, and everything in between.
Yeah, and we need to consider who on our team is going to handle those things too, especially if you're a solopreneur. So you're telling me you're going to make the phone call, you're going to manually send the email, you're going to do all of these things, right? There's no way you can possibly do all these things. So that's where tools like Zapier come into play, where are there components of this that we can automate for you, that we can build you out a really great process. But maybe there are components in here that, yes, you can truly own, maybe the phone call component, but maybe we automate some emails or some text messages or some other pieces of this, or maybe we build out a custom automated email sequence to accompany these other more manual things that are taking place. I find often that sometimes when there is a bigger team too, and maybe I'm only meeting with certain people in the room, they're all on board with the plan, but it's up to you as the business owner or the leader of that department or of that company to then go out and communicate that with your team too, and assign ownership to each key component of that customer journey, because it creates a great customer journey but it also creates a really great experience for your team as
Yeah.
well. They need to know who has ownership of what component. There needs to be a level of accountability built in there because all of this has to do with marketing, because it all has to do with the perception that the customer has on your business.
Yeah.
You don't
Perception
follow
is
up.
perception
Perception's
is
reality. If they don't think that you called quick enough, you don't have great customer service.
yeah.
If you said you were going to send a follow-up email and you never sent a follow-up email with the quote and information for them, they're on to the next company,
Yeah.
right? They now have a bad perception. So all of these things deeply matter when it comes to your brand, your business, and the overall perception
Yeah.
by your ideal customer.
And if you have a process in place, that is half the battle. So I want to switch gears, talk a little bit about the problems that you solve within your agency. So you've been around for how many years? 12 years, 16 years, what'd you say?
Yeah. So our founder, Wayne Mullins, he founded Ugly Mug Marketing 16 years ago.
And how long
Yeah.
have you been with the brand?
I have been with Ugly Mug for coming up on 7 years.
Wow, that's great. So in a
Yeah.
nutshell, what problem do you solve that's different than other website, branding, marketing agencies? What's your unique value proposition?
Yeah, we help drive the results that your business and brand is looking for. We always say that our mission is to help entrepreneurs get better sleep at night
Hmm.
because entrepreneurs are oftentimes bogged down by all of these problems that they have. How am I going to pay my payroll? How am I going to support my family? They're worried about all of these external things sometimes that have to do with their business along with these other very important things within their business, right? And so our goal is to take some of that off of their plate. And if that can be your marketing, if that's what's going to help you sleep better at night, then we want to provide a solution to that. But more importantly, I want to actually help you connect the dots from post and ad running on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the way to revenue in your business, because we find that so many people are burnout and frustrated because they've been posting on social media and they're hearing crickets, or
Mm.
they've been running ads and they can't count a single dollar that came in as a result of their Facebook marketing. And so our goal is to help you build a strategy that actually does prove that journey from relationship and community that we're building on Facebook, advertisements that we're running on Facebook, all the way to revenue for your business.
So on your website, I saw the services that you offer, website design. We've been talking about that. Social
Yeah.
media marketing, visual. So I'm assuming you're involved in the photography, videography aspects of it. I saw something around
Yeah.
speaking or keynotes, search engine optimization, event planning, and I think I
Yeah.
saw email marketing. So within all those different services, that bevy of what you're doing, you're really vocal about understanding the audience before designing anything. So
Yeah.
how does Ugly Mug Marketing go about understanding the audience for any of those services that we just discussed?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So it's a little bit industry dependent, but one of the top things that we like to do is we go and we do some secret shopping. So we will physically have secret shoppers go if it is an actual brick and mortar business. We will send out secret shoppers to go and shop your competitors. We will make phone calls. One of my clients very early on is they're actually still with us to this day, but they are a vehicle accessory shop. So you can go there and you can get your truck lifted and you can get some nice Nitto tires, wheels and tires added on there. You can really deck your vehicle out completely. But one of the things is that the rural area that they are located in is highly competitive. And so
Mm.
we needed to identify who specifically are they talking to, because there's a whole lot of other places in central Louisiana that also lift trucks, add big tires, and can
Hmm.
put in a mean stereo system.
Hmm.
And so we did some competitor calling and we recorded those phone calls, and we were able to provide feedback based on what competitors were doing, but we also secret shopped their location as well. And we gave them a recording of how their customer service representatives and people working at the front were actually talking to customers as well.
How does that correlate with before designing anything, you're crystallizing exactly who the audience is? So how does that, like, if you were to do that for me, how does that translate into me understanding my audience better?
Yes. So we're ultimately trying to get a competitor landscape because we want to understand, why is someone choosing them over you? Does it have to do with customer service? Does it have to do with pricing as well, which is another huge thing? And so we want to understand, are people going here because the customer service is better, because they can actually get a quote over the phone versus having to fill something out on the form? Sorry, I didn't preface that very well with all of the questions and kind of analysis that we're completing by doing those phone calls. But we want to understand more about those businesses and why someone might have a preference for going there. We may also physically go to that location as well and see what types of people are hanging out here. Are they people that look younger? Are they older? Is it typically more men or women? And we want to just have that understanding, so that when we are putting together that messaging for us, what are we doing that's actually different than what the competitors are doing? What are the things that we are actually doing so much better, pricing wise, speed of quote, customer service, timeliness of getting an appointment from the time that you call and try and make an appointment to the time where you can actually come and drop your vehicle off here? All of those things matter. And so in providing a really great experience for our customers. And so that helps us really better identify, because what our messaging needs to look like. When I first started working with this client too, they used to say, "Oh, we sell to everybody, Hannah. We got people in here that are 16 years old and just got their first truck all the way to 65. And we were able to, from all of these phone calls and looking at these competitors and figuring out price points and stuff, we kind of really figured out that the people that actually have the money to shop at the price point that they're commanding, because of the level of experience, is really someone who is more in this like 35 to like 50-year-old range. That is typically the person who has the disposable income. There's many, many, many other factors, like types of jobs that they have and things of that nature, that kind of make up who this age range is. But that really helped us like hone in on like, who is this true audience that can afford to come to you, that would prefer to come to you over the other guys, that care about these key components of your business that make you stand out against the next tire, truck, vehicle, accessory company down the road. So that we can really lean on those things and lean into that market and show those people that we really are for them.
Yeah.
That's not to say we're not going to get a random 16-year-old come in and say, "Hey, I need my windows tinted today." You might provide that service for them. Great. But the majority of the folks that we are going to be after, the people that we can best serve, the people that are ultimately going to become evangelists for our business. We talk a lot at Ugly Mug about this natural progression of going from stranger to friend to customer. Oftentimes people think the journey ends there. No, we want these people to become an evangelist. That's like the next step. People that rant and rave about your business, who've had a remarkable experience, that are going to come back again and again. But more importantly, the evangelism side, going and telling all their friends and family, right? Or Joe Schmo down the road, or their buddy, "Hey, I just went and got my truck lifted over at, Glass 10, et cetera. You should go over there and, get your truck done too. Or that's where you should go for tires. You're going to get in right away. Kenny's going to take great care of you." Yeah. That's what we want to create.
The evangelical part of this, it's really important, not just for your clients that you're serving, but also and you're an agency. So it's really important that you and your team, and you're living the dream right now, talking about all the amazing stuff that Ugly Mug Marketing does. It's really important internally. And this is a question, do you agree that everyone whether you're working with contractors or you're working with partners or you have a staff like you do, that everybody's sort of drinking the Kool-Aid and understands why you do what you do, how important it is, because that brand message is internal as well, right? So yes. If you came on this podcast and you weren't very clear upon, exactly what Ugly Mug Marketing does or the value that you bring to the table, and you weren't very articulate on being able to explain that, I would draw the conclusion that, she hasn't really bought into what Ugly Mug Marketing's value truly is. So it's really important to do that. You mentioned something that I want to draw in a little bit tighter. Not every client is the right fit for you, right? So whether you're servicing a client that you're doing work for, or you're looking for somebody in your space, who would you say is the ideal client for your business, for Ugly Mug Marketing?
Yeah, we've really been leaning in to that specific question as an agency, because what we've discovered more recently is who is not for us. And that's helping us really get closer to better defining who is for us. Because we work with such a wide variety of different industries. I mean, from like home services is what I have been really leaning into. um, I never in a million years would think I know so much about HVAC and electrical and plumbing, but I do. But then all the way to a coffee shop, right? Like there's such a wide variety, but there are some traits that we are looking for when it comes to these individuals. And so when we were talking to them about their business, if they don't have financial goals outlined for this quarter or for this year, or a plan of where they would like to go over the next 5 years, they're not going to be a good client for us.
So a financial blueprint or a plan,
Yes.
that's one of your qualifiers. What
Yes.
else?
Yes. The other one is definitely going to be, how do I phrase this? They're not putting all of their budgeted eggs into one basket, meaning they're not saying Facebook ads is what is going to take our business to the next level. They need to have a very holistic view of marketing or be very open to a holistic view of marketing, meaning we might need to run Facebook ads, but we also need to update your website. And in addition to that, we need to also be doing SEO services. And I am not saying that purely from a standpoint of, I want you to spend all of this money with us, right? I'm telling you, from 1,000-foot view, and if you're telling me financially you want your business to go from here to here are the different phases and things that we need to do in order to scale your business to get to that point from a marketing perspective.
If I'm an entrepreneur and I have a couple of ticks off your check sheet, I might not know what marketing's real purpose is, or I might not really understand marketing. So, and I certainly don't understand branding, let's say. But I have a
Yeah.
really robust business. I have a strong need for your services. Are there other qualifiers that I can fall into? Because I would sort of think that
Yeah.
you are beholden to sort of teach me and train me on those sort of things. No?
Yes. So if we're doing the full service, we're doing it for you. Like these are more of the things. But if we're doing it with you, then yes, like I want to make sure that you are teachable and that you have the time and resources to jump on, however long of our commitment of these calls are going to be, or that someone on your team has that time commitment as well. Especially with this new package that we've kind of been working on and rolling out at Ugly Mug, it is like 3 months of really high intensity meeting. Now, we're only meeting for about 3 hours every single month, but sometimes that feels like a lot for if you're just one person. But if you have someone else on your team who's going to be the point person and actually be carrying out or executing on what we're discussing in each of these calls, we need to be able to have that key point person. So that could be another qualifier for us
So
as
just
well.
being able to devote time and energy to the planning sessions and the strategy sessions, that's what these meetings are about.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
financial metrics, wherewithal, sort of an understanding of what my business is doing, the ability to consume information from you, learn from you, et cetera, be coachable, as you said,
Yeah.
and then being able to devote time and energy to sort of the process itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say those are kind of the key areas that we're leaning into right now. As I mentioned, we're kind of making this shift more into a consulting space and less of this transactional, because we figured out that those people sometimes they don't have the brand identified. They believe that their brand is already in alignment. And they want us to keep pushing that message. And we don't always feel that that message is right. And so during the sales process, and as we're having, Dan on our sales team, as he's having these conversations, he might make that suggestion. Hey, well, I'm going to bring Hannah in, or I'm going to bring Alex in. I want to get their input in on this. And we might say, hey, we also would recommend this. And they're like, well, my budget only allows for you to run Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, we're not going to be a good fit, because we do feel that the messaging needs to change in order to help you achieve your goal, which you've already shared with us. We're recommending X, Y, and Z. We could just do the branding component. and start there and then move into it. But if they are unwilling to do that, then it's just not going to be a good fit. I do feel like those are kind of the three components. Again, those aren't all of the qualifiers, but those are the things that I feel like we're really leaning into right now.
So let me recap what I heard you say. So if a client doesn't want to go take the first step of getting their brand messaging down, and they just want to jump into paid advertising or website, you're saying that they're not really somebody that you would want to work with.
No,
Fair
not if
enough.
we, yeah, not if we don't believe that their messaging and their branding
Fair
is where
enough.
it is.
What's
Yeah.
a common marketing myth that you as an expert would like to debunk that you hear often? And you're like, whether you see it on mass media or you see it on mainstream or you see it on social media, and you hear somebody like dropping something out there and you're like, bro, that's not even close to how it is. Is there something that really kind of
Yeah.
ticks you off when you hear stuff like that?
Yeah. Gosh, we've been having this ongoing conversation of like people that come to us and they're like, we just need one video to go viral and then my business is going to take off. And I'm like, your coffee shop is located I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Your coffee shop is located in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Is that where you are
Who
actually?
cares? Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I'm in Charlotte.
Oh, fun.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize
I'm
we
in
were
Raleigh.
neighbor. I didn't realize we were neighbors. For some reason, I thought you all were Louisiana or something.
We are in Louisiana, but I work remotely
Got
and
it. Okay, cool. Got
yes,
it. All right.
I'm based
Sorry,
in
I didn't
Raleigh.
mean to interrupt. Continue.
No, all good. But I'm like, this idea of going viral and that it's going to like completely change your business, I believe is such a marketing myth. And that is something that I feel, especially for our friends who are in the brick and mortar space and not in an online space. Let's say this coffee shop does not even grind, like they're not even roasting their own coffee, right? There's no way to even sell their product in Virginia or in California, right? They go viral, they get all of these views. Let's go down and look at the metrics of who actually watched that. Who were the people? Who was, let's go look at where those people geographically were. Are those people that are actually going to come into your coffee shop? Are those people that are actually would, even if they do live in the area, do they have the financial means to come into your coffee shop or into your clothing store? I think this idea of going viral and that it's going to A, happen overnight, but B, going to dramatically change your business, if especially for our friends that are in the brick and mortar space and don't have any sort of online or e-commerce presence. I just think that is such a myth. And it's been made out to be that going viral is easy to do.
Yeah, it's almost like winning the lottery.
Yes.
But let me ask you this. So, and not everybody's going to go viral, and not every video goes viral, and not everybody becomes insta famous, if you will. But there is something to be said for, at least as the algorithm. This is a true or false question I'm asking. I'm genuinely curious. There is something to say in the bandwidth of the algorithm that if you are getting larger people visiting your page or larger traffic on your social or conversions, whatever, that does add or that doesn't add to sort of like your overall social score, like your social proof, if you will.
Yeah, it certainly does. And that's why when you go to brands' pages, especially on Instagram, you'll notice that when you go to their pages, you might click on the first box on their reels or on their feed on Instagram, and you might scroll and you were like, this has 1 million views. Amazing. But then when you scroll down, you go, this is a reel from 2021. And it's because they've pinned that to the top because that is the credibility for that brand
I didn't even know
or
you could
for
do
that.
that.
Oh, yeah. You can pin that to be the first post that people see when they come to your,
On what
it can even
channel?
be on your Facebook, but on Instagram.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So
Hold
we
on. I got
have,
to get my phone and just pin one of my big posts up at the top.
yeah, like there are a couple influencers that I follow, and I'm like, their first 3 posts on their feed are just pinned right there, and they're from years ago, but
What rock
they're
have
things that,
what rock have I been hiding in? I didn't even know that was a thing you could do.
yeah,
All right, well, let's talk about
yeah.
then with metrics and numbers and all these things. We live in a world obsessed with ROI and KPI and metrics. How does Ugly Mug marketing define success beyond these numbers, beyond these metrics? What does that look like for you?
When we work with someone who's maybe worked with another agency before, we find that they were like, it's often because they were disappointed. They're like, yeah, we left that agency because we weren't getting what we wanted. And I'm
Mm,
like, well, can you like show me a report that like, would you get like a weekly report? Would you get a monthly report? Like what was included in that? And then so they'll share the report with me, and it is filled with all of these KPIs, these numbers, these metrics, these reach, impression,
yeah,
engagement, how
yeah.
many people commented on something, how many people liked it. And what I found is that these business owners, like, they can't sleep at night because they want their business to be making money. They're stressed because they have payroll to meet with a team. They are so responsible for the livelihood of their family and of all of these people that are on their team, whether it's 5 people or 500 people on their team, and they're responsible for the livelihood of all those people. So they want to be able to draw the line from that to ROI, like you mentioned. And so for me, sometimes that is a really, really key factor. Like return on ad spend is a very important metric that I need to be able to report on. And so you will find in our reports is if you, as my client, if in our conversations early on and if in the sales cycle, if brand awareness was the most important thing, then in your report, there probably is going to be impressions, reach, ad recall lift. Like we probably are going to be measuring that. But if you told me that, hey, our business is currently doing, I don't know, $20,000 a month in revenue, and we want to be getting to $50,000 a month in revenue, you're going to see me reporting on actual revenue dollars for your business. That is ultimately the number that I find that people are looking for in these reports, and they're not seeing it. They're just not. And they're frustrated because they've maybe been through like 5 agencies, or they were told, put all your money in Instagram and nothing came of it, or put all your money in TikTok and nothing came of it, or put all your money in PPC and SEO and nothing came of it, right? They're frustrated. And so providing this more, again, holistic approach, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to look at the website and how that impacts our social, because we're sending people from social to your website. Like, and where are you showing up in the search when people are just Googling HVAC company near me or coffee shop near me, right? We need to be looking at all of those things. But ultimately, my report, yeah, I might have like reach impressions, but I want to be able to show you revenue. And so with our home service clients in particular, my report for them is very simple. Here's how much we've spent on ad spend year to date. Here's how much we spent this month. Here is how much revenue has come in that is directly tied to leads that came from Facebook, and by God's grace of Zapier automations has then been entered into your CRM and can be tagged with this, tag of, HVAC Facebook lead. Here's the revenue that came from that. And that's all the proof that they need. That's what they're looking for. And because at a high level, that's what they need to be able to see in order to determine if something is working or not.
I'd like to get your opinion on this, because I love what you said. And I think there's a couple of things I want to break down from that. When I look at success factors for clients, and whether I'm looking at it for my own business and working with partners, or just what I'm doing for my clients, I try to break it up into two separate silos. There's direct marketing and there's indirect marketing. And those KPIs that you talked about, those ROIs, those fall directly under, for me, they fall directly under direct marketing in terms of response rates, conversion rates, customer acquisition costs, actionable data, all of those KPIs that people are looking for to sort of say, hey, we're moving the needle, right? But then on the indirect marketing side, and this is a question, on the indirect marketing side, there are other measurable stats that you can look at, whether it's brand awareness, you talked about engagement metrics, audience trust and loyalty, messaging, commentary, lead nurturing, all those things. So how do you, as an agency, differentiate your reporting in terms of your results and your success metrics so that a client can sort of see those two different silos?
Yeah, I think it comes down to what are we reporting on a weekly basis, and what are we reporting on a monthly or quarterly basis. So my monthly reports look much different than what I'm sending them on a weekly report basis, because those numbers aren't, if somebody filled out a form, they're not going to get their new HVAC system the next day, right? So that might need a little bit more time. So those financial metrics that I was talking about, those I might report once a month or twice a quarter. And so that's a little bit different, right? But everything else is very easy to track on a weekly basis, and they're going to see those numbers increasing. They're going to see the amount of people that we're reaching increasing on a week to week basis. And that also is like a perceived value to them too, to be able to have access to seeing those metrics and seeing that on a weekly basis. I can't tell you, and maybe you feel this too with your clients, if they've been working with someone else, they're like, I never heard from them. Or I worked with them and they would only email. They never called me on the phone,
Yeah,
right?
I actually had an experience with my own marketing team that I'd hired many years ago, and that was my scenario. But I want to go back to the question because you still haven't defined
Sorry.
success for me. So, in a
Yes.
nutshell, what does success look like when you're working with somebody and after 6 months or 12 months or 3 months or whatever? How does Ugly Mug Marketing define what success looks like?
Yeah. What's really important for us when we're having that initial kickoff meeting is we establish what the goal is and what success looks like. We all mutually agree on that.
So,
And that's
success is different for different businesses.
success is different for different
Fair
businesses.
enough. Fair enough.
But we sit down and we mutually define that together from the get-go so that there is no question on what the measuring stick is moving forward. If
Got
we
it.
said we were going to help you accomplish this by 6 months and we're not there at 6 months, hold me accountable.
And those success metrics that you're talking about, those could be direct or indirect or all of the above or sort
Yes.
of the intersection of them. I'm
Yes.
good with that answer. Let me ask a question because it's something that's it's sort of been I've been fundamentally stewing on. If there was no internet, if there was no social media, if there was and you had to sort of throw everything out, right? If you had to scrap every marketing trend or every tool that you've ever used and you have to go back to basics,
Yeah.
what does good basic marketing look like?
Yeah. Time before social media marketing. What a time.
I mean, it's not
Yeah,
unforeseeable, right?
totally.
I always tell people if you're only marketing in one area and that area goes down, what are you doing outside of that? So
Yeah.
if you're only sending
Oh,
emails and email shuts down, or if you only are on social media, or if you're only on a website and you're not doing
yeah.
all the other pieces, you talked about the word holistic, like everything, you need to have a balance in what you're doing. So I want to know from a marketing agency of your status, what does basic, good old impactful marketing look like if you didn't have access to all the tools that we're currently using?
Yeah. There's such a level of creativity that would need to be required and used to be required, right? We have to be able to still get into the mind of that target audience and understand what is going to get their attention.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the owner of our agency, Wade Mullins, he wrote a book, Full Circle Marketing. And in the book, he talks about the story of the $1 million rock. Wayne literally wrote on a rock, marketing doesn't have to be hard or expensive. Give me a call. And that rock that was multiple rocks were randomly placed in places intentionally that probably business owners or entrepreneurs would hang out in our where our headquarters are in Alexandria, Louisiana. And that rock generated $1 million in revenue. Just a simple rock
Mm-hmm.
with a simple, clear message intentionally placed in places where people he knew hung out that would match what we were looking for in a client that had problems that we could solve. And it generated $1 million in revenue.
Hmm.
And it really is a testament to there was no social media. He did not post that he wrote on a rock and placed it in these places. And then you have to find the rock and call the number and then you win a free marketing. It wasn't that. It was simply a conversation piece. It was something that had a short message on it, specifically for this target audience. It had a phone number on it. So all they had to do was pick up the phone and call and chat with Dan on our sales team or chat with whoever answered the phone. That's one thing we really pride ourselves in is whoever answers the phone can talk you through all the way to getting to an appointment or answering your questions or pass you along to someone who has the answers that you're looking for. That's all it took. And so I think the principles of showing up in the right place, having a very clear message and call to action, showing up in the places that those people, knowing who those people are and showing up in those places, those all still apply with that story. And no social media whatsoever was needed in order to accomplish that.
I love that answer. It's good, and it was good thinking on your feet. I think if I can add one more piece to that, just for the listeners, it really centers around don't forget the relationship building aspect of what you're doing. Like this is why you're in the business in the first place, and so whether that's traditional networking or going to networking events or just spending time getting to know other people and just spreading your whether it's your thought seed or whatever it is you do. So I love that. Last question, and I'll let you go because I know you have a busy day. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to this podcast, and if you had to give them one piece of advice, like closing innovation, inspiration, education. What's one piece of advice you would give to a small business owner who's currently feeling a little bit overwhelmed by this ever-changing landscape of marketing?
I would say that your business does not have to be, your business and your brand does not have to be all things to all people.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to find your people.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of leans back on what I mentioned earlier. When you try to talk to everybody, you end up talking to nobody. And I find that people start to really lose steam when they try to be all things to all people, when they try to show up on every single platform, when in reality, they don't need to be on every single platform because their target audience is teenagers and they're not hanging out on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like your brand, your identity as a company, it does not need to be all things to all people. It needs to be for your people. And so take the
For your
time
people
to
and for
figure
you,
out who,
for your people and for you, right?
yes,
And going
and for
back to
you.
that, like
Yes,
you have to, I mean, you have to love what you do. And the more you love what you do and the more
absolutely.
you're living in that space, the more you're going to serve as almost a magnet for attracting the right people. Like, I mean, I think we're saying the same thing, just in a different way, but yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Hannah, that was a really cool
Yeah.
conversation. I appreciate you joining the Brand Laboratory today and sharing your insights and your wisdom. And any closing thoughts?
No. I
All
feel
right.
like we covered a lot here today. I loved
We did.
it.
What's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Hannah Balliet, or you can get connected with me on any of our Ugly Mug Marketing social media channels. You can visit our website, uglymugmarketing.com, or find us at Ugly Mug Marketing on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. I appreciate your time. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, there was a cool podcast from a marketing agency. Hannah, thank you for taking the time to do the branding laboratory. To our listeners, thank you for spending some time with us today. I know you have a lot of different podcasts that are out there circulating the interwebs, and I appreciate you dropping by. Don't forget to subscribe, follow us on social media, and if you enjoyed this conversation, drop us a review. Tell us what you think. And if you have a specific guest that you'd like to have on the show or someone that you recommend, or maybe even yourself, go to thebrandstoryteller.com, navigate over to podcasts, click out the apply to be a guest on the show, and someone from my team will get up with you and get you scheduled if you qualify. Anyhow, so I'm Deevo. This has been the Brand Laboratory. Until next time, keep focusing on what matters, results, being genuine, building relationships, and solving a real problem for somebody. And you're going to find yourself that you have yourself a little business, a recipe for business right there. I'm Deevo. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Branding Laboratory. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Connect with us on social media for more branding tips and insights. And remember, your story matters. Until next time, keep building and sharing your unique brand story. I'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Branding Laboratory. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Connect with us on social media for more branding tips and insights. And remember, your story matters. Until next time, keep building and sharing your unique brand story. I'll see you soon.